Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the Business Spotlight series. I'm your host Devi Malvika, and joining me today is Dr. Amo Raju, who is the CEO of Disability Direct. Disability Direct was created in 1993 by a group of disabled people who saw a need for good, reliable information. Soon after, they created their welfare rights service, which has then continued for 29 years. So, first of all, Doctor, I'm really glad that you are on our Business Spotlight series. Welcome. And congratulations for having completed 30 years at Disability Direct as of last year. So, I know that you celebrated 30 years, yeah? So, wonderful to have you on our Business Spotlight series. So, why don't you kick us off by telling us a bit more about Disability Direct and what exactly it is that you do?
Yeah, sure. Disability Direct is 30 years old now. I've been here actually in next month. I will have been here
Mm,
30 years as well. So I'm one of the
wow,
founding members of staff all the way back to early 1994.
wonderful.
I was a young lad when we started. So the organization is what's called a user-led service. So
Mm,
above me is a
mm,
board of trustees who
mm,
are predominantly disabled people from the community
mm,
of all
mm,
backgrounds. And their life
mm.
experience, their lived experience helps shape the services that we provide and want to provide. So
Mm,
it's a very big organization now in that it is actually split
mm,
into three further companies.
mm,
We have an organization called the Disability Syndicate, which does a lot of
mm,
HR and payroll support for disabled people. We
mm,
have a
mm,
company called Nimbus, which does something called the
mm,
Access Card and focuses on reasonable
mm,
adjustments for disabled people.
mm,
Then we have a new company, a brand new baby company called
mm,
Send Dynamic, which looks at supporting parents of disabled children through the local authority education placement process. And then the charity itself has a lot of free
mm,
services, such as
mm.
welfare rights, which you mentioned, and
Right.
advocacy, carers
Mm,
support,
mm,
mental health support, counseling, then day activities to help with the life skills of disabled people. So at any
mm,
one
mm,
time, there's more than 20 plus projects running. I've
mm.
lost track of how many projects we've got, if I'm honest with you. I'm a little detached
Right.
from the front line now.
Mm, mm, mm. No, I mean, looking at that, that's just really remarkable to say the least, because in the span of 30 years, now, from what you have mentioned, I can see so much of growth has happened. I think you've tried to cover a lot of aspects out there, which would have been a problem for people with disabilities. And then, extending your support on those aspects. I think doing that in 30 years and covering so many things all at the same time and involving in so many projects, I think that's really wonderful. So kudos to that. That being said, what would you attribute your growth to?
The growth, wow. I mean, there were some external factors which came to play because when we
Mm,
started, there was a lot of government legislation that also kicked in, such as
mm,
the Disability Discrimination Act 1995 and the
mm,
amendments to Community Care Acts around social care and direct payments,
mm,
which
mm,
put us in the ideal place at the ideal time as an
mm,
organization. And
mm,
the growth itself, I
mm,
when I took over as CEO in 97,
mm,
I wanted the ethos of the organization is about disabled people
mm,
achieving equality um,
mm,
in society. But I said that for disabled people to achieve equality as a disability organization, I want to be
mm.
on an equal footing. I don't like the idea that we are reliant on donations and grants. I want to be in a
Right.
position where we can stand on our own 2 feet and raise our own income through trading,
Mm,
through chargeable
mm,
services.
mm,
So we set up companies such as the
mm,
Disability Syndicate and Nimbus.
mm,
And to cut a long story short, the growth that we have enjoyed today, it comes from the fact that 96% of our income is self-generated.
Wow.
We have this fiscal year, our turnover is going to be a combined 2.5 million pounds,
Wow.
of which, the vast majority of that is self-generated, and that allows me as the CEO to spend it where I need to, rather than having to wait for a funder to announce their grant
Yeah.
schemes. So we're in a very comfortable position there, and that growth. I make it sound easy. It was slightly painful. I compare it to when I took over. I took over a screaming baby, and nurtured that baby through the teenage difficult years, the
Right.
difficult years that teenagers go through. And today it's now a very well settled young adult. So we've had some ups and downs. Not Life hasn't been all rosy. We've made mistakes, which are I'm actually I'm pleased we made those mistakes, because I would have been worried if everything went too smooth. That sounds a
Right.
bit strange to say.
No, that's actually wonderful, and even the idea that you said about having most of the funds come through your businesses, through charitable services that you're providing. I think that's a really good idea, because uh, most of the charitable organizations, they all have that issue where you are waiting on funds from the outside, and that's not very stable. So I think that's a wonderful idea. And then also the fact that, I think you must be a very proud parent now that you've nurtured your baby through, and your baby is a very full developed adult. So congratulations to that. But that being said, I would also like to focus on the one point that you said, um, which was that you had your ups and downs as well. You have had some rough times. You have, probably have to make some difficult decisions, and things like that. So what would you say, according to you, is a current challenge that you're facing?
A current challenge.
Mm,
The current challenge is to be able to sustain what we have at the moment, which
mm,
it's not an immediate challenge, but it's always at the back of
mm,
my mind that we're
right.
enjoying the good times,
Mm,
and I want them to continue. But for them to
right.
continue, uh, this organization over the last 30
Mm,
years has had to
mm,
reinvent itself a number of times. So the
mm,
challenge is to stay what I call relevant. You have to be
right.
relevant. If you're going to
Mm,
still do the same things that you did when you 30 years ago, you will be
mm,
out of date. Um, and
right.
so every few years, I take a good look in the mirror. I put a mirror up to the organization and say, what are you doing? Is it the same as what the people out there
Mm,
want? And if it's
mm,
not,
mm,
then you're doing something wrong.
mm,
I see the
wrong.
mistake. I see the mistake too often when other organizations stick to the original core principles, which may have been very relevant when they started, but
Mm,
life. You know, you and I are not the same person we were 10 years ago. So how can
yeah.
we expect the organizations to be like that?
Yeah.
It's
Mm,
you're taking. I've got across the four companies now. There's over 75 staff, and
mm,
for over 75 staff, they have to
mm,
understand what we're all about, and what
mm,
we want to achieve. And
mm,
if they're trying to deliver a service that was set up in 1994, it's too,
mm,
they're soon going to find that they're not relevant, and the people will be just
right.
ignoring them and going to other organizations. So
Mm,
I won't call it a challenge, but it's something that always keeps me um, awake at night sometimes, saying, what are
mm,
we doing that's still relevant?
mm. Okay, that's really nice. And when you said this, I think the one thought that came in my mind was, they say that change is the only constant. So you constantly have to keep evolving. You have to
Yeah.
keep adapting. Everything around you is changing. So relevance is quite an interesting point that you put out there, Doctor. Thank you so much for that share. And this would also bring me to one of my next questions. Again, you mentioned, I think, when you were speaking about your growth, you mentioned that there were things that you had quite a lot of learnings, and
Yeah.
you're happy that you have those learnings. So let me paint this quick picture for you. If you had to begin from square one, what would you have done differently?
Oh no, you know what? I have been asked this question before, and I'm going to say the same
Hmm.
answer that I gave last time. I wouldn't
Uh-huh.
change a thing. I really wouldn't change a thing.
Mhm.
And I tell you what, when
Right.
I started here, I had no business
Hmm.
acumen. I
Hmm.
had never run a business. I had never
Hmm.
run an
Hmm.
organization.
Hmm.
The previous boss had to leave,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
I was pretty much shoehorned into the organization um, to
Uh-huh.
to basically I took over overnight,
Hmm. Hmm.
and I was scratching my head saying, "What do I do here? I've
Hmm.
got to. I've never managed staff because
Right.
HR is a big thing. I've
Hmm.
never I've never done a business plan. I've never dealt
Hmm.
with funders. I've never dealt with decision makers. I've always
Hmm.
enjoyed being under the radar, um,
Right.
and so I had a baptism of fire on many fronts in that
Hmm.
I had to learn by mistakes, and I made
Right.
mistakes, and I'll stand up
Hmm.
quite happily and proudly and say I
Hmm.
made mistakes.
Hmm.
I, I didn't manage HR the way I should have done. I didn't
Hmm.
originally manage funds the way I should have done. Um,
Hmm.
but I soon learned that that's not the way to do it. I didn't do
Right.
anything purposely wrong. I did it out of inexperience.
Right.
And by learning those mistakes, I quickly realized I don't need to do that again.
Hmm.
I know how not to make that mistake again.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
today I mentor. I've got about 6 or 7. I think I've got about 7 CEOs, new people in leadership, who I
Oh,
mentor on a monthly basis. And
okay.
the dilemmas that they put to me and the challenges that they're facing, it makes me giggle
Right.
sometimes because I've already made those mistakes, and so I know what to say to them, and I know how to deal with them. The things that used to keep me
Right.
awake
Hmm.
in my 30s, that I can just laugh
Hmm.
about them now because I say that's not a problem. That I know how to
Hmm.
deal with those issues,
Uh-huh.
and a
Right.
lot of it is just about confidence. I didn't have the confidence right at the
Hmm.
beginning, but now I
Hmm.
have the confidence. I can talk about
Hmm.
my subject. This organization that I've run and I've built up, I can talk about it in my sleep confidently, and I
Uh-huh.
know
Wow.
exactly what to do. I know I have a bit of a giggle with my staff and sometimes my board. I
Hmm.
I have a virtual crystal ball. I
Uh-huh.
can see what's coming. I honestly, this is no lie. I can see what's coming in the business community, in the voluntary sector, in the sector that I work in. I know what's coming
Right.
around the corner, so I can because I've been there. One of the benefits of being in the job for 3 decades is nothing is new. It just comes around. It just comes around again in circles, and you say, "Oh, I've been through that before. I know what's happening."
Right.
I meet with people who are new in post and say, "I've got a brand new idea," and I say, "No, you haven't. I've done that 20 years ago." And or somebody else has brought that idea to me 10 years ago, because
Hmm. Hmm.
they've all come projects and
Hmm.
funder initiatives and government initiatives are just rehashed into new services, and they come back to people like me, and I know
Hmm.
exactly how to deal with them. I know exactly what they're looking for, and because I've got this experience now, which is it's made my life a little easier, having made those
Right.
mistakes in the past.
Hmm.
So
Wow.
no, I
I
wouldn't change
mean,
anything.
you wouldn't change a single thing. So no regrets. That's really nice. But that being said, I'm also very grateful that you shared your learnings at the same time. When you said you had difficulty around HR, you had difficulty around handling funds initially. So those are the kind of learnings. I think everybody at some point, when they are a decision maker, they might have gone through these kind of challenges before. And yes, I do agree with you that it is from these mistakes that we learn. If these mistakes hadn't happened, we would keep thinking that we are doing the right thing. And, maybe we wouldn't ever find a different perspective or a different way or a more efficient way of doing things. So that's wonderful. And also it's awesome to hear that you have so much experience, that you can see things coming. So that's also really nice, and that just stuck to me when you said you have that crystal ball. So that's really interesting. Wonderful. So, let me bring you to one of my final questions, Doctor. How have you been able to manage your personal life with the demands of running disability direct and everything that's going on?
Yeah, that's the heartbreak, really, to be honest with you. Because when
Ah.
I was 24 years old when I started here, and I just had uh a young family. I had three young toddlers.
Mm,
Me and my wife, we started our family early,
mm,
and
mm,
the following, you know 25 plus years, uh, were a haze. My daughter got married in 2017, my eldest child,
mm,
and
uh-huh,
as I sat in the temple watching her walk down the aisle, one of the reasons my eyes filled up was, okay, my daughter's getting married, but the second thing was I've missed her growing up,
oh,
because I was so busy with work that I actually can't. At that moment, I thought, what? How did I? What happened in her parents' evenings at schools? Did what? And I couldn't recall anything. And my eyes filled up that my children have grown up now. They're all three of them are
mm,
successful in their own lives now. They've all
mm,
got great
mm,
jobs, and I've got
mm.
three grandchildren as well now. And
Oh,
the personal life, even my poor wife suffered all those years, but she stood by my side. And
mm,
last about 5 6 months ago,
mm,
I I won a Lifetime Achiever Award at the
mm,
National Diversity Awards, and as they were announcing the award, my legs turned to
mm.
jelly because I realized they were talking about me, and I couldn't stand up because I went into shock. I couldn't stand up, and
Right.
my son he was a little kid when he started with me, and he's now 6'1", taller than me, and he had to help me to the stage. And as he was walking me to the stage, I thought, where have all these years gone?
Oh,
I've missed my family, and
mm,
that kind of is a little sad. That they are
mm,
very proud of me. They are very proud of
mm,
what I've achieved.
mm,
My parents. I lost my father a few months ago, and
yeah,
he was really proud of what I've achieved. Because as a disabled person, my
mm,
parents were told that I wasn't going to amount to much in life,
mm,
by lots of professionals. So
mm,
me achieving everything I have with this organization, and then the numerous awards that I've won in the last few years. I
mm,
just came back from Buckingham Palace, um,
mm,
2 months ago. My wife
mm,
and my mother came with me, and I got an OBE from
mm,
the Princess Royal. And
mm,
again, those kind of incidents make me realize that I've missed out on my family. They stand by me and they're collecting the awards with me, but
mm,
I haven't
mm,
given them the time. So
mm.
I've promised my wife and my children and my mum now that I'm going to slow down, because I'm getting older, and I've recognized that the aeroplane needs to start coming down to land now.
Mm,
I've been flying high for a number of years, so
mm,
my family is now one of my priorities. It wasn't. I'll be honest with you, it wasn't, and but
mm.
they understood. They realized that I needed to do this. This
Right.
organization is in a special place because I've been
Mm,
scratching my head and lost countless nights. I
right.
remember on many occasions when it came to holidays and Christmas,
Mm,
and we used to have 2 weeks off at Christmas. I'd be on my laptop doing stuff throughout the Christmas holidays, while
mm,
my wife and children are
mm.
looking at me at the corner of their eyes, saying, "Aren't you supposed to spend time with us?" And I've been a really bad husband and
Mm,
father when I look back and realize I didn't give them the attention. But
mm.
I think they've forgiven me.
Of course. Of course, hey, that's what family is for. And that being said, Doctor, it's also wonderful that you realize that at some point, and it's never too late. We can always make a lot more memories. Sure, you may have missed your childhood,
Absolutely,
maybe
yeah.
some precious memories, but there's always time. We can always make more memories, and it's wonderful that you realize that, and you're making a conscious decision. And also the other baby, which is what you've been nurturing all these years, is also a full grown adult. So you've been investing your time somewhere, and to have a family to support you through that, to understand that this is something that you absolutely need to do. I think you should be very grateful. It's truly a blessing, right? So it's wonderful to hear that as well. And I think one of the key takeaways would, of course, be that you need to somehow have a balance, or strive to have a balance, because yes, family is important, business can be important, but family is also important. And then it is stories such as yours and journeys that you share that adds a lot of value to the viewers and the people who are listening, because that was truly heart touching even for me, for you to actually get that thought, where did the childhood go, which is yeah, interesting.
It, it's a difficult one, but I'm not alone. A lot of
Mm,
people in my position say something
mm,
similar, in that they've reached the
mm,
top of their
yeah,
career, and that's when they
yeah,
start looking down
yeah.
and realize, oh my God, I've
Mm,
left all those people down there, and they're waiting for me, saying,
right,
when are you coming back down?
right.
So,
No, I
but
mean,
it's
yeah, truly, it must be very relatable. I know for a fact my dad probably might relate to that. At some point in his life, he might also feel that he missed out on my childhood. So, yes, that does happen. And then again, for parents, I think one of the things that I've noticed is time is never enough with their children. They
no,
really value that time. Yeah. So, that's also there happening at the side. So yeah, life happened, but we all have our learnings, and you have lots of memories to create. So on that note, let me wish you nothing but goodness in your times to come. Wishing you all opportunities to make a lot more memories. Wishing you all the success with Disability Direct, and thank you so much for taking the time out to be doing this interview with us, Doctor.
not a problem. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks.